Hey everyone, so here we are. I brought out these little watercolor paints, which I haven't yet had the chance to try out and that I'm pretty excited to try. These are Corvus colors, and what really drew me to them was the names and how each one of the names, they were made in Norway, and each one of the names is kind of tied to Norse mythology. So in particular, you know that I have a series of weavings that I've always loved doing. And those weavings are kind of loosely based on the myth of these three goddesses who live in the sky and who weave lives. One of them cuts, one of them spins, and then one of them, oh no, what does the third one do? I don't remember. Oh yeah, one of them measures, one of them spins, one of them measures, one of them cuts. And I'm trying to remember which ones those are, but they came as a set of three, I think 3 blues. And first of all, I want to apologize because they were all so beautiful. They had like these beautiful little colors on the surface, you know, with these little mini swatches. And I got some water spilled on them, so a lot of them look a little bit more messy. But that's okay. We're going to be able to see them in action. Also, this is kind of I guess, a big day because it's also the first time that we're doing one of our art challenges, monthly art challenges. Kind of like a sketchbook club, but also, you know, inspired by that group that I had on Skillshare for a while where I would give art challenges every week. This is going to be more of a monthly art challenge in your sketchbook or wherever it is that you want. But the key or the reason that I wanted to do this is I thought it would be really fun to create a little bit more added accountability for those days when we struggle to get started, and also have a theme to think about, at least for this painting, but which you can carry with you throughout the month if it's something that resonates with you. And then, of course, we can share what we made in the Discord channel if you want to do that, which I would love. I would love to see what you made. And if you prefer to keep it private and have it more of a private art practice, that's absolutely fine as well. So both are really valuable, and there's no pressure, basically is my point. But yeah, so this is really just going to be a kind of chill hangout. I'm going to talk you through a few little things and have a little theme to keep in mind for the rest of the week and month. Maybe. I've not even swatched these, but I'm not going to actually swatch them today since we have already the swatches on here. I'm just going to go ahead and reach for my sketchbook and paint directly in that. I have my water here. I have my brushes. Actually, I need to go get my brushes. Give me 1 second. So I have my brushes, which I love. We have one of my trusty little plants as well. And I'm going to be putting some music on. This music is by the website that I often use for my YouTube videos and Skillshare classes, Epidemic Sound. They have a lot of really great music. And so for those of you who are doting deers and upwards, so doting deers, elated elks, passionate pangolins, ultimate unicorns, am I forgetting one? Basically anyone in the $15 tier and up has access to these playlists. And so we're just going to be listening to that. So if ever you want to reach for that playlist at some other point in time, you can always refer back to Patreon, so you can find it there. So, why don't we get started? what I thought would be fun today, I wanted actually us to start with more of a sentence rather than a theme or a subject to draw. Why? Because often if you've been kind of in a rut, if you've kind of let go of your art practice a little bit, if you've, struggled to reach for your paints or your pencils, that first step can be pretty daunting, and having a subject can create some added pressure. So what I'm thinking we could do today is keep in mind the words letting go. There's a lot of forms of letting go, and when we paint, I think it's a very, very important notion to keep in mind. In particular, if you do struggle with, maybe perfectionism or doubting what you make, I really want us to hold that sentence in our minds as we're painting. Letting go is such an important facet of human existence, and yet it's such a difficult one. I don't know if you're anything like me. I just know that it's something that I struggle with over and over again, and so you have to kind of relearn it in different situations and places and reminders. And so when we're painting, it's also this opportunity to practice letting go. So I'm just going to find a free page here. And maybe close my shutter a little so the light isn't too bothersome. There we go. And if you have, paints or pencils, I want you to reach out for whatever tool it is that calls for you. If it's a specific medium, then that's awesome. If it's a specific color, then you can maybe gather all your different mediums of that color to choose which medium it is that you want. I know I wanted to start with these, and I want you to just pick one color just to start out with that, is drawing you in. So I'm kind of hesitating here between this one and this sort of purple blue, which I think is really interesting. You know what? I think I'm going to go for that one. And so we're just going to start with one color. If you already have an idea of the, the different kinds of colors that you might want to use or different kinds of mediums, then feel free to prepare them. So that you can reach for them when you'd like. And I'm going to already start putting some music on. These are very well packed. Obviously, they say that if it sticks, you're supposed to put them in the freezer for a bit, but this looks fine. I'm also going to prep a few others. I really like this deep dark brown. Sorry about that. I'll turn that up. Maybe I should have prepped these before so that there's not as much waiting, but if you already have your gear ready, then feel free to jump right in and start applying that color that you chose to your paper without thinking too much. and just starting, because that's often the hardest. Or if you're like me and you're just prepping while this video starts, that's fine too. This is a burnt umber. Beautiful color. All right, I'm going to start out with these. So, oh, I'm just noticing there's some dead leaves on this one. I'm going to let me get those off of my lovely plant so that it can grow better. So again, we're keeping in mind this notion of letting go. And so what that means is letting go of a result, letting go of expectations, letting go of any pressure that you might feel, just letting go and letting things flow. Yeah, that rhymes. So a lot of you are probably familiar with this, I guess, method that I use a lot, because it's one of the ways that I find I keep coming back more consistently to my sketchbook. When I have too many expectations of myself, then I find the pressure builds up, and then I don't reach for my sketchbook as much. And so we're really just here to explore and experiment. And the point of these art challenges is really just to give ourselves that space and that permission to just play. I have to say, this color is absolutely stunning. You know, if you know my work, you know that purple is not a color I reach for much. And that was the other reason why I got all these paints, is because there were a lot of purples that spoke to me. And so one thing you'll notice that I do, and if you haven't experimented with this, then that could be fun to experiment with, is I really use the shape of the brush, and I try to explore the different possibilities that that shape offers me. This is one of my favorite brushes. It's a natural brush, and it's not really a big brand or anything. It's the local store in my hometown, which actually closed down now, but I find that their natural brushes have this really beautiful range of very thick to very thin, so I really like that versatility. But if yours is more of a homogeneous shape, which is, I also have some of those and I love those as well, that's fine. Just explore the shapes of the brush that you have, you know? Sorry, that cut out there. So there's something I wanted to talk about, which I actually heard from Marco Mazzoni in this Domestica course I took called Chiaroscuro with Colored Pencils. And one of the things that he talked about, which I thought was quite interesting and really true, is that we all have some form of comfort shape. And so when I do like my daily sketchbook practice, I guess that's often what I start out with is my comfort shape. And a lot of my comfort shapes are these lines. You know, you'll see a lot of this line work. And this music's funny, right? Anyway, in the beginning, you might not necessarily know what your comfort shape is, but once you've, you know, had a good amount of artwork under your belt, then you'll be able to go back to your artwork and kind of analyze and see what are the shapes that keep coming back. And that's really useful information because especially when you're in a rut, then that can be a great way to get you started back up again. And then sometimes you might be sick of doing that comfort shape, and that's a great thing because it's by being sick of it that we then start to look for other things and innovating and, you know, trying something new. So that's kind of what I hope as well, is that you'll not be afraid to veer away from your comfort shapes at any moment. And at this point, I'm kind of like exploring what this color looks like with a little bit more water. Here I was using it pretty pure, but it's nice to see how it reacts when it has a thinner veil of water. And I have to say, it's really beautiful. It kind of reminds me of that color from the Grim North palette by Studio Artichoke, which I really, really love. There's that one color called Moorland, except that has a mix of two pigments, and so it has kind of this really nice separation between those two colors, but this is one of those, I think, those two colors. So it's kind of nice that I can have both the version with that one pigment and then the other version which has like multiples. And I'm using watercolor here, but if you're using gouache or pencils, you know, no pressure. It's fine as well. I want to go a little bit darker here, a little bit more pigmented, simply because I kind of set up a perspective. So where that looks like, you know, the horizon, and then this looks like it's coming forward. And when you're doing perspective stuff, you know, everything that's in the front is usually more contrasted than what's in the back, and that helps the perspective be more believable. So and right now I'm wondering whether I should just make that color go all the way to the end or just keep it like that. I quite like that actually. So I think I'm gonna just keep it like so. And I've been only using one color, and that can be a great thing to do when you're feeling a little stuck and overwhelmed by, you know, decision making. A lot of painting is always decision making, so when we're feeling overwhelmed, limiting our decisions can really help alleviate that. So having a monochrome painting, working with one single color, that's a great way of dealing with that. And if you do feel like, you know, adding some more color at some point, that's fine as well. I'm actually wondering whether I should just leave this like that, or add a little bit. I think I may just leave it. There's something simple but direct that I like about it. So I'm gonna just start on a new one. Oh, it's my last page. No! How sad. I love this sketchbook. Let's see if maybe... Could I use one of these other pages? No, I think I'm gonna... Oh, I'm just gonna go turn off my fridge. Oops. So, as I came back from turning off my fridge, I realized I just wanted to mention something. Like here, I ended up with something that I actually liked, and that's why I'm deciding to move on to a new one. But it's fairly possible, and even highly possible, that you might have created something that you don't necessarily like. And I just want to come back again to that notion of letting go. Simply because, you know, I happen to make something that I liked here, but I also have been painting and drawing for 10 years, more than half of that as a full-time artist. So, you know, the more that you paint, the more you might be able to get to results that you like more frequently. And if you don't appreciate or like the experiment that you did today, that's absolutely fine. And that's why I want us to let go of the result. Even if I like it, doesn't matter. I'm going to move on and do another one. And so that's why I want this session not just to stop with one single work. I think it's really good, especially when you have been a little bit stuck or you want to reignite your sketchbook practice, to churn out, you know, maybe 2 or 3 paintings just to get yourself back into that flow and to remind yourself that each single one that you make is not the representative of your entire art journey. You know, it's just one little stepping stone. So if you've finished one of your stepping stones, then please feel free to join me in doing another. However, I decided though that I don't actually want to do it on the last page. I don't know why, because I guess this is one of my nature sketchbooks and I might want to do something a little bit more planned for this last page. So I'm just going to take some other paper here. And I'm going to reach for my Arches paper, which is a very different texture. This is much smoother. And that's fine that it's much smoother. I want to... Okay, so I'm just gonna start on this one. The tape is just something that I always kind of keep on here, and I transfer it every time. Again, this is not, the point of this is not to have it be a finished piece. So I'm going to keep that same notion that I did when I started with the first one, of really just falling into the moment. And I'm going to do something a little different from last time. Rather than being slow, I mean, I started out kind of slow. I want you to be all right with really just placing tons of marks on the page. Again, these are all, these are just like guidelines in case you're not sure what to do next, but if you're doing your own thing at the same time and it's totally unrelated to what I'm doing here, that is absolutely fine as well. The point of these videos was really just to have a reason to kind of get together and paint on our own time when we're ready for it. I'm really liking how you can really see the brush strokes on here, so I'm kind of playing with that and moving in that direction. Another thing to watch out for is how you're breathing. I find that breathing is a really good, or our breath rather, is a really good indication of how we're feeling sometimes. Sometimes you don't even know that you're tense. And then if you start paying attention to your breath, then you realize that you're holding it in. And that really gives you kind of like a barometer of where you're at, and then you can take steps to alleviate the stress, if, for example, that's something that you're experiencing. Often when I'm painting, I will get these moments where suddenly I'm starting to hold my breath because maybe I'm taking a risk, and so I'm going into the unknown and it's a little scary, or maybe I'm too attached to the result. So I really try to pay attention to that, and then if I do realize that, I'm holding my breath, like, the point is not necessarily to, berate yourself about that either, but rather just to kind of draw attention to it, and then maybe try to relax into the moment, let go of the tension in your shoulders, and start breathing again. I really love this song. I think I may have put it in one of my recent YouTube vlogs. I talked about this recently in one of my Skillshare Live class, about how when you're working with like more abstract elements, one way that you can create more balance or rhythm is by repeating shapes. So you see I have these shapes here, and then I decided to add some of those shapes over here as well. I really like this color, the chocolate brown of it. And so here I just decided to darken this because I thought it was kind of an interesting shape. And I like how it kind of looks almost 3D, as though these other shapes are kind of, you know, piercing through. And so I don't know, I thought adding a little bit of contrast would make that kind of pop a little bit more. That's the thing also, is that the more that you show up, you know, every day just experimenting and trying things out, then the easier it becomes also to know how to push your painting into this direction or that direction, depending on what it is that you're interested in bringing out. And I have to say I'm pretty happy with this one. Maybe one more color would be nice, and I'm just trying to think of what color that, maybe something like a light blue, like a cold blue would be quite nice. Or like a baby blue, more like a baby blue. So in this set of colors I don't have a baby blue. I have this one, but it's not exactly the color I'm thinking of. So I'm going to go ahead and just add another color from one of my other watercolors. So I have this blue, but no, I know which one I'm thinking of. This is the one, that blue. It's the blue that I thought would be fun to integrate into, yeah, so I'm gonna prep that one. And I always have two water things in case the first one gets too muddy, or if I'm working with a much lighter color, which is absolutely the case here with that blue. So I'm gonna, I have to say these paints are really beautiful. I'm really liking these paints by Corvus Colors. Like, look at how thick and brown that can be, and then how pale it can go. Just gonna zoom in a little bit so that you... I hope the light's okay and not too dark. Maybe I'll just do that. Oh yeah, look at that. That's a beautiful color with the brown and the purple. Having something like this that's slightly colder. Really love that. This is a cool song too. Let's see who this is. This is Brookie. The Ocean is Near. So I'm just adding a little few details here just to add that pop of color. And you know what? As I'm doing this, I'm realizing like I am coming back again to my comfort shapes, and I really want to just change it up a little. Again, letting go. So letting go even of our comfort shapes in order to try something different and new. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm literally just gonna do something unexpected that I wouldn't usually. First of all, I'm going to move away from the circular shapes, which are definitely my comfort shapes, that's for sure, and go for a square. And it doesn't matter, again, if, you know, who knows, maybe by the end of this I might have completely covered up the square and it might have become something else, and that's fine. But which means I can also let go of the things that I'm using to let go. You know, so you can kind of bring that ad infinitum, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so what that does is when you kind of let go of your comfort shapes and you try to kind of break out of your comfort zones, it forces you to contend with something new, and then you have to kind of reevaluate. And this is when we often get a little overwhelmed with panic, like, you know, and accepting that that's part of the process, and it's okay to have that fear and just to try and see, okay, well, whatever, I'm letting go of my expectation of this looking like anything beautiful, and I'm just gonna see where I go with that. So I kind of wanna maybe I can echo that by adding another square over here, as though we're behind. And I'm leaving kind of the white shapes a little bit, just because I think that's kind of fun and nice. So now I'm seeing, okay, I have these two squares. Well, what if I added a third one somewhere? So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to add a third one. I find that abstract art is often a constant, actually, form of practicing letting go of what you're doing. Because you might see things and then, I don't know, maybe you make a mistake or something unexpected happens, or you try something and it doesn't come out the way you wanted. And so you're constantly having to readjust. And I think it's really good practice. And it's fun, especially when you end up doing something that you would have never expected, but you end up liking it. There's something really satisfying about that. And then other times it won't work out, and that's, I guess, also kind of a good lesson about life. You take risks, and sometimes it doesn't work out, and other times it does. But we can keep showing up and practicing and getting more comfortable with trusting that we'll know what to do when that happens. So I'm really liking these squares. I'm kind of not liking how you can see the strokes of paint here in this one. So I'm just gonna try to add a little bit more water. But often, sometimes that can make it even worse, but I'm just gonna try to homogenize it a little. And I think that's already better. And now that we're here, I'm realizing, well, what about if I did something really bold and added some other random color? So this one is catching my eye. And I'm wondering, well, wouldn't that make an interesting contrast, right? Between these kind of muted purples, blues, and then something really bright. So we're gonna do that. Oh, this song. You know this song. You've definitely heard it in my vlogs. I love it. I think it's the nature night sounds that I love. Sorry, the camera cut out again. So, I prepared the yellow. Yep, right there. Let's see how we use this. I just did something very different. I just did something very uncontrolled. And that's fun. I'm letting go, right? That's the name of the game today. I kind of like how it works in a layer with that blue underneath. So see this, again, you enter a kind of problem-solving mode, like, oh, wow, well, this is really surprising, kind of shocking. What am I going to do? I'm going to just experiment. I'm going to let go of what it was before and work with what it is. And now I don't like how this is such a closed shape. I kind of liked how open it was. So again, well, what am I going to do to make it, to push it in a direction that I prefer again? So Let's see how I'm going to do that. That makes it different. It sort of looks like a tree, and somehow that makes it a little bit more of... But again, I'm not totally satisfied with that. So, how are we gonna... Ooh, I could make it more of like a weeping willow kind of. I'm just going to add a little bit of the yellow over here. I was gonna draw. Okay, let me say that again. I was going to draw this line all the way down to the blue squares that was anchored, but I realized I encountered this brown line on the way down, and then realized, well, see, that makes it more interesting because then it's almost like it's floating, kind of like this one. And what I'm gonna do here also is I'm gonna add a little bit more of this blue into the red. And I think that'll harmonize it a little bit more. Create these sort of greens and give it a little bit more depth. And that's slightly better, but you know, again, I'm not totally satisfied with this one. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep adding to it. Sometimes this doesn't work, you know, I might end this session still not liking this painting. If that's the case, then that's okay too. And then another thing that you can do is set it to the side. Come back to it. Because often you'll have like different opinions on your pieces depending on when you're looking at them. You know what? So I'm realizing what it is that I feel like I've lost here. So what happened is that the yellow is a very bold color. And whereas before I had a very good balance between the brown and the purple, now the yellow is like kind of taking over. And so I don't have a clear, I guess, hierarchy of colors, if that makes sense. And that can sometimes be one of the reasons that your piece doesn't work or you don't feel like it's working. So one way you can do that is either by shifting the hierarchy of colors. So I could decide, oh, yellow is going to be, my most important color here. Or you can try to pull it back to what it was before, and that's fine too. And so I'm coming over here. And see, remember how I said that I might cover that square up completely? Well, that's what I'm doing here, and that's fine too. I'm also letting go of that because I'm trying to let go of what my painting was or is and trying to bring it to a new place. And it might work, it might not work. But if you are not willing to experiment, then you will never know where it could go. Also, I'm working on this one current piece, but if you've switched to a new piece, feel free. Again, these sessions are really just to paint together, have a nice time. And experiment. Ooh, the light is really encroaching here, so you're seeing less of the colors that I'm doing. I'm gonna just... There we go. Oh, now it's too dark. Alright, let me figure out a way to do this. There we go. So I think I'm gonna call this one done, even though, and this is a perfect example of what these sessions are about, I'm not that happy with it, and that's okay. I want to show you that, having paintings that we don't like is an inherent part of the journey, and I find it actually really fitting that I made a work that I don't really like during the session where the theme we're trying to keep in mind is the theme of letting go. I want us also to take a moment just to really celebrate the fact that we came together here and that we pulled out our tools and we're creative and we're brave enough to put paint on paper or pencil on paper, and you showed up, which is like the most important thing for yourself. If you're feeling super critical, then I hope you will try to cultivate some self-compassion and allow yourself to embrace the fact that, you know, every day is going to be different, every painting is going to be different, and that you can at least be proud for being brave and showing up. I hope you've made at least 2, if not 3 paintings, and I would love to see what it is that you made in the Discord channel if you feel like sharing. For our first art challenge, the challenge of letting go, of creating and letting go, over and over and over again. Woo. See, I just ripped the paper. There's another reason to let go. And you know, also sometimes our opinion changes. Maybe I'll come back to this one tomorrow or the day after or 2 months from now and think, actually, you know, there's some things I really like. And I mean, honestly, there are some things that I like in my piece. That's something else I often talk about in my Skillshare class, is always finding at least one thing that you like in your piece, if not 2 or 3. Things that you'll keep for next time. And one of the things that I like is actually the color scheme. And I do think that adding more of that blue kind of balanced out the color scheme a little bit more. So, you know, we can always be surprised by the things that we make. These were my 2 pieces for today. A monochrome one. And then a more challenging one that, as I look at it more and more, it's growing on me. Thank you so much for joining in. This was really, really fun, and I hope we get to do this every month together. I hope that you had fun, and congratulate yourself again for being so brave and showing up. I'm sending you all much, much love. Have a good day.